This video is going to be a review of these adhesive sheets and acetates which are used in glass painting. Since Rainbow Glass stopped doing their adhesive acetate, I haven't actually been able to find one to replace it, so let's hope one of these will. Okay, to start with, let's just go through them. I am going to immediately get rid of this from Glass Design, which I think I got from Great Art. A bit annoyed with this one because it's advertised as self-adhesive, but there's no adhesive on it. It's actually what we would call cling. It's just static cling. As you see, there's no adhesive on there at all. It will stick to a window, and they say you can use it with the thick water-based paints, but since those will do pipe and peel anyway, what's the point? So this is honestly not worth the money you paid for it, so that can go in the bin. That's from Glass Design. They won't be visiting the site again, will they? Anyway, it's from Glass Design. I do like their paints, but this film is rubbish, and it's certainly not self-adhesive. Don't believe what websites like Great Art say. It is not adhesive, purely cling. Right, the other ones we have is this by Lock, which has quite a clear background there. This one's come from Crafty Computer Papers, and that is advertised as an adhesive acetate. This one's come from Hobbycraft. I'm not too sure about this one. It's a bit thin. It looks like one of that stuff you use for covering textbooks when you're at school. And finally, I am going to try this one by Safmat, self-adhesive printing film. You can see here, transparent, and the first thing you notice when you get it out of the packet is it's not transparent in the slightest. Now it's a bit hard to show. Let's take that away so you can see on the white. I hope you can see this Safmat. It may be translucent, but it's certainly not transparent. That is translucence. Anyway, we can still use it and still try it and see how it turns out. Okay, as you can see, I've outlined two versions of a design on each of the sheets, and we're going to paint one of the versions with water-based paint and one with solvent-based paint so we can do a comparison. Already I can tell you that this sheet here which is the Safmat was remarkably difficult to see the design through. If we can find the design, which is going to be that one. There we are, the clown. I think you can see already. Now I have said this Safmat isn't transparent. I don't know if you can see that, but it is actually translucent rather than transparent. So that's obviously not going to help, and with the backing. It may be better if you've got a light box. I haven't got a light box at the moment, so found it quite difficult to outline through that. For those of you who are interested, all the outliner was done with gallery glass, liquid leading, using a piping bag as normal. Right, we'll show you a little bit of the painting, but not too much, as it's normal flat flood fill technique. Okay, having outlined, now we're ready to paint. To prepare this sheet for painting, I think it's the Lock sheet, I've actually got this piece of thick acetate, or thick film, whatever you want to call it, and very gently I've stuck our film onto that using a spray mount, like that. That keeps it as flat as possible on the extra thick film. And we want the design to be as flat as possible. I've also checked the table with my spirit level, And finally I shall put a piece of white paper underneath so I can clearly see where I'm painting. Right, to start with I'm going to do the wing sections, and I'm using solvent based paint. This is a paint by Rainbow Glass. I'm afraid you can't get this anymore, but I shall use it up, and it's just a normal solvent based paint, and I shall paint using the normal flood fill technique. Plenty of paint on, make sure it goes right up to the edges. That's the first colour there, and this is going to be a blend, so do that. A nice solid brush there, wipes off very easily. That's clean now. On with the second colour, which is a turquoise blue. Again, make sure it goes right up to the edges. And when I've got enough on there, I should just make sure the two blend. There we go, and there's that part done. Do the same with the other wing. There's drops there, which we don't want. Purple in again. Right, and the rest of this design I think we'll do in double speed time, just to show you how it's done. And similar with the water-based paint. This is by Marabou, and it's Deco Glass. Okay, well, all the painting's finished and they've dried, so it's time to have our first review. This will be just a painting review. We're going to look at how they stick later, but let's start. First one, the Saf Matte. Not a good result, I'm afraid. It would have been surprising if it was. This isn't made as a glass painting film. I think it's for printing labels. So it would have been nice if it had worked, but I don't think it really has. I'll try and show you. It's a bit difficult. Focus will probably go. Okay, this is the water-based paint, and you can see it seems to have reacted quite badly. I did think it might be a bit of a mess on the film or something, so I did try another bit, making sure it was clean, and it's done exactly the same. It's creased and reacted. The solvent based one, which is this top clown here, hasn't reacted quite as badly, but you can see the film's rocked up I hope you can see that. Which does mean there is a reaction there. You could possibly get away with that, but isn't good. The second one I'll look at is the Hobbycraft, this thin paper. Again, the solvent-based paint this time has quite badly reacted. I'm hoping this is getting in focus and I hope you can see, but the paint is actually sort of creased. The water-based paint one isn't actually bad. It doesn't seem to have had a bad reaction. My main problem with this, because it's so thin, was actually keeping it flat. But we will have a go with that, and we'll stick it to something and see how it sticks. The third one's the Lock. Again, a slight reaction with the water-based paint. Not too bad, it's giving it a funny sort of sheen. But I think you would get away with that. It's not perfect by a long way, but you would get away with it. The solvent one, absolutely fine. There's no reaction there. To me, that's strange. I would expect a reaction perhaps with the solvent-based paint, but not the water-based ones. Here we've got it the other way around. Slight reaction with the water-based paint, no reaction with the solvent. So we'll try that one and see how it sticks to something later. And finally, this is the adhesive acetate, which came from Crafty Computer Papers, and I can't see a problem with this at all. Both water-based, which well, that shows you how good the water-based are. This one's the water-based paint. If the flower looks a little bit funny, the paint had dried out a little bit and was a bit thick, and it's also an iridescent paint, so it should look slightly strange. Let's see if we can get that in focus. Okay, and there's the solvent-based one. Both fine, no reactions, so we're obviously going to try sticking that to something. Well, here's just a few ideas, or a few things I've done with it. One is using it on a mirror. Why? Well, it's really hard to put your design onto a mirror. Obviously, unlike normal glass painting, you can't get your design underneath. So it's either do it freehand or use this. Now, that's not the perfect design for a mirror. I would have done a sort of triangular one for the corner, or an arch one with straight sides. But anyway, it shows you what the effect is. That actually is the adhesive acetate, and you can hardly see. In fact, even on those clear bits, you can't see that there is any film there. If you do by any chance, if it does look as though there's film there, just mottle these gaps and it should be okay. Couple of tips. One, if you have trouble getting the backing off the film, use a bit of sellotape, put sellotape on the backing, peel the sellotape off, and as that comes off, hopefully the backing does as well. Secondly, when you're pushing this down, push on the outliner, not on the paint. This was only painted yesterday, and solvent paint does take a while to dry. So push down on the outliner. If you push on the paint, you can get a mark on it. And while we're talking about that, let's look at something else which I've done. I've just done a couple of things on jam jars, old jam jars, which I've saved. So here's the Om sign. This was done on the Hobbycraft film. Again, it's stuck on very well. Again, push down on the outliner, not on the paint. Now this is water-based paint, so it stays quite flexible. Now if you have a look at another one, this is the clown, which was done on the SAF mat, and you can see what I mean by it not being clear. Stick down a little bit more. Might even run my paintbrush on there just to get it down. But this is solvent-based paint. Now solvent-based paint can crack when it's dry, so it's important if you're going to do something like this with solvent-based paint where it's going to be curved, it's important you do it in between it being tacky dry and solid dry. If I left that for 2 or 3 days, so it was solid dry, and then tried to curve it round like that, it would have cracked. This way, it doesn't. Anyway, there was no way I would have, or it would have been very difficult to have actually painted round that curve, but using the film, it looks quite good. With this one, I would definitely mottle with a clear glass paint, thick one, in between these gaps, and that way you won't see that the film is actually not as transparent as it should be. Okay, another thing I've done was this vase here. Now yes, I could have painted this flat, but it seemed like a good place to stick on these designs, and that one actually goes quite well. One of the good things is I can take that off when I'm fed up of it and perhaps replace it with another. In the meantime, if it needs to be cleaned, just to wipe down with a damp cloth should be absolutely fine. This is the water-based one on the lock. Right, and I shall now show you one more thing you can do with these films. So here's the last method of using them. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a front window of our house. And I put 2 temporarily in there. Well, they can stay or they can be temporary. Probably not my decision. Anyway, I know a lot of people who use these on their patio doors, etc., to stop the birds and in some cases the children running into them. I hope you can see those. Zoom in there a little bit. There you can see the 2 designs. The top one is on the lock paper, and that's solvent base, and the lower one is on the acetate, and that's a water based. Well, for the conclusion, all the films had their good and bad points. The Saf Matte didn't do very well with the water-based paint. Did okay with the solvent-based paint, as you can see here. Not as transparent as it could be, but was okay with the solvent-based paint. The Hobbycraft thin film, no good with the solvent-based paint. Okay with the water-based paint. Quite surprised at that actually, but it was, so can't complain at that. The lock, passable for both. Was certainly better with solvent-based paint, but definitely passable with both. And I would have to say the same with the adhesive acetate. I did notice on going back that the water-based paint did react ever so slightly. It was the yellow actually, but it had reacted ever so slightly. Solvent-based paint was fine. You'd get away with using it for both, but certainly better for the solvent-based paint. Now, I've only used certain solvent-based and water-based paints. Other paints may react differently, and you will want to test yourself with the specific paints you are using before you embark on any major item. Okay, have fun with your glass painting. If you find any other films which you think work well, please do let us know. We'd be really interested to hear of them. Thank you. Bye.